It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
I thought the days of like 5 opening acts would end. And I'm asking you as a certified punk rock hero, will we ever see that, or is that just the way of the world?
Well, it's turned into mostly festivals, and when I interview bands, you can get them complaining about festivals, but they don't like it too much because they still want to be invited to them.
Of course.
But everything has become like more than 5. It's become like 10, 15, 20, 30 bands, and it's all a blur to me. But when Weasel toured, we had in our contract we couldn't have more than 3 bands. So.
Which seems appropriate.
Yeah, even when we weren't a known band yet. That's why we actually would play in front of like 2 or 3 people, like tours, and had to pay for it ourselves because we had these rules that weren't acceptable when you were a nothing band. But that was a big one. Couldn't go on after 10 p.m. and no more than 3 bands.
That right there, that's Jughead. This is Car Con Carne. I'm James Van Alstyne. We're recording at lunchtime. It's pouring outside. You rode your bike. I could have picked you up, but you rode your bike.
I like my bike.
I appreciate that. We're at King's Gyros with the sign in front that says, what is it, Royally Delicious? Which we'll soon...
it does say Royally Delicious, yeah. Gyros, hot dog, salads, beef burgers, chicken.
This is such a Chicago place. At the northwest side of the city, we're at, what is this, Foster and Milwaukee? This is such a Chicago place.
I'm sorry, but my actor friend of mine likes to put words together when there's no proper grammar, so it's like a gyros hot dog salad beef burger chicken sandwich.
And really exciting. There's real life Chicago paramedic action happening right outside our window as we're recording today.
Yeah, I actually befriended. I've been living in the area for about 25 years, and I befriended a retired fireman that used to hang out at the Dunkin' Donuts at like 2 or 3 in the morning. So, yeah, I've learned a lot about firemen in the area.
So we'll start eating. We got gyros, which is what you have to do when you go to King's Gyros.
Yeah.
John Jughead Pierson, you probably, if you're watching or if you're listening, you probably best know him from his days in Screeching Weasel, and those days were many. Those days were decades with Screeching Weasel.
Yep.
And I want to talk about Screeching Weasel, and I want to talk about when the wheels came off, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to talk about your podcast. We're both podcasters. You've been doing this for over 5 years.
10 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, this is my 10-year anniversary this year.
10 years?
Yeah.
So legit.
Yeah.
Wow, Jughead's Basement, triple-digit episodes. This is your vocation at this point.
It is. Yeah, it is. It has become my part-time job. Hopefully a full-time job eventually.
It's a great side hustle, if nothing else.
Yeah. And a hustle is the correct word, because when you run a Patreon and stuff like that, you are hustling all the time. You are your own machine. So.
Let's start eating.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the podcast. I'm always excited to talk to other podcasters because no one does it the same way. We all have different approaches. And I got to say, your podcast sounds good. Like, you're a musician, I get it, but like sonically, you and your guests always sound really fucking good.
Oh, thanks a lot. And we don't even use a lot of people, like friends of mine. I have a friend from the Partially Examined Life, which is like a famous philosophy podcast, like millions of downloads. And he always says, "Well, should I send you the file? Like the sound file?" I'm like, "No, I kind of
good.
I'm good." But I think my thing is I spend a lot of time, and since I did theater and radio. I spend a lot of time on the editing out and I learn a person's patterns and what words they repeat, and I cut things out, and I raise and lower, amplify things.
See, I want to talk about that, though. I got to a point a couple years in where the and the awkward pauses just seemed like too much work. Like for the return, like for the amount of work you're doing on the editing, what is that return in terms of listening, and is it even worth it, or is it just the cost of a conversation? Is it just the price of doing business and having an interview?
Well, for me, having been like a playwright and also like writing for the radio, I do, in my mind, acknowledge the difference between someone who's going to be watching the video and filling those pauses with facial expressions, and then trying to listen to it purely as audio and going, is that going to fulfill the audience like it does a video audience? And it's a guesstimation on my part, but I like doing it. I think it helps keep the drama that you see in video, but in radio. So,
All right, let's open up the food. These
yeah.
are heavy. This is like holding it's like holding a dwarf star in my hand.
This is a classic place here. I mean, if you want to talk a little bit about it, I don't know a lot about it. I tried to actually do some studying, and all you can find is stuff on Yelp, and people hated it. Like there's one person that, and I trust this because before I don't know if they sold it or what, but before what is that? Oh, you're looking at that. Before the remodeling, which probably happened during the pandemic, there was an old Greek guy that was behind the counter, and he would smoke. And this guy gave it a 1 star. I'm surprised he even gave it 1 star. I don't know if you have to on Yelp, but because he found a cigarette in his gyro. But most of them are
It's
like
a
5
gift with
stars.
purchase.
Yeah. Most of them are like 5 stars, like one of the best places to go for gyros. But they stopped being late night. They used to be open to 2 or 3 a.m., and now they're only closed at like 9. So it used to be my late night place. Down the street.
Can I steal some napkins from you? I know this is going to be trouble. Thank you. It's funny. I was vegetarian for.
Do you use the
the tzatziki? Yeah. Do we only have one?
No, you got one there.
I was vegetarian for a few years. This was years ago.
Yeah.
One of the first things I had when I bounced back from vegetarianism and re-entered the world of carnivores was gyros. Like that was one of my cravings. Was
Really?
gyros with the tzatziki sauce, the onions, the tomatoes, the pita bread. And I think only Chicagoans would have that craving.
I guess so. Yeah. My funny thing is I spent 6 years in Japan, and people are always. I was in Osaka, which is like it's like the sister city to Chicago, so it's a food town. So people are always like, "Well, what did you miss?" And I had to really think hard about what I missed because the food is great. But it was Mexican food actually. We have Chicago. We're blessed with 24-hour like. On almost every corner, there's a 24-hour mom and pop Mexican restaurant.
I found a taqueria in Rogers Park. There's this stretch between like Toohey Avenue and Pratt where there are like 20 taquerias. I don't even know the names, but my new go-to is this place. Again, don't know the name. I just know where it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know the tacos are like $2 a piece, and they're amazing.
Yep.
But you're right. That's everywhere in Chicago.
Yeah. I joke. My girlfriend's from Japan, so she's visiting, and we'd walk for like 6 hours a day. That's kind of our thing. And I'll point out every taco place. I go, tacos? It happens a lot.
So what made you decide to start podcasting?
I actually had a friend who had a podcast. His name is Jeremy Corp. I didn't know about it, but he cornered me on Facebook one time because I did this thing like 11 years ago on Facebook where I was kind of drinking some wine and I was a little toasty. And I said, I'll answer completely honestly for anybody who messages me in the next hour on Facebook.
Ask me anything.
Ask me anything. And it worked. I mean, it was like, I had so many great questions, and I was completely honest, and people would buy me pizzas, so like delivery men would show up like while I was doing this. And then my friend Jeremy said, well, you need to turn this into a podcast. So that's how it started. Originally it was supposed to be a live experience, but that quickly got more difficult than it was worth doing.
Oh, I get it.
At that time. Yeah, like 10 years ago, it was not very easy to do a live podcast.
Well, and I'm sure you found, as I did starting out, there's no blueprint to this. You kind of have to figure all this out as you go. The mechanics of putting together a podcast.
Yeah, like I said, I had been doing sound editing for, like I said, I just do like radio shows and stuff like that, and fun, many voices. So I had an in on that part of it. Mm-hmm. But my podcast also started out, the first 5 years was, I could only do like one a month because they took me about 40 hours to do. Because I would interview like full bands, edit it into the record I was studying.
Right.
So it became like an art. I called them art projects.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But
So
even things like
started.
understanding the distribution of a podcast and how the different platforms operate and behave, and then pricing out different platforms and realizing they all kind of do the same thing, but they're different in their own little ways.
Luckily I said my friend had that already. So we had Podomatic, which is not one of the best, but I've stuck with it. And they do all the placing it into iTunes and all the other places, so I didn't have to really worry about that. I had to do all the mechanics of putting it in, all the SSN numbers or whatever those are.
Is there anything you wish you had known then that you know now? Or anything you would have approached differently with the knowledge of a decade's worth of podcast experience?
Well, what I realized, what I should have known, is that people love the spontaneity of podcasts and the longness of it, because you can't get away with that in a lot of media. Because
Certainly not radio.
There's producers telling you to edit here, or and keep it to 10 minutes or 5 minutes. My first podcast, like I said, were art projects, and they did better actually than it does now. But I found people were even more pleased with just me doing long form question answer, and I didn't have to put all that work I did. I still do a lot of work on it, but I didn't have to do that 40-50 hours per episode. So I might have changed that if I had known that, but I really liked doing those in-depth things too. If I made more money, I would probably do one of those a month.
For a lot of people, myself included, the hardest part of podcasting is guest booking. It is the most difficult thing, dealing with shifting schedules, reschedules, just dogging people down. I've got to think it's easier for you just because you know so many musicians from touring and just being in that scene for so long.
That's how I get my like foundation. Is I have go-to people like Master Genie, Dan Vapid, and they'll help me get other people. But I try to state right away, like Fred Armisen said he would do the show, and now I'm on my second month of like sending him messages, and I have his personal phone number, so I'm like really careful not to. I say, hey, I'm my own PR guy, because that sometimes I would think makes someone go, oh, I should probably get back.
That's adorable. Yeah. Pat on the head. Oh, that's cute.
Right. So I don't want to be as forceful, but I have to also think of my show, and if I don't keep at him, he'll just disappear into the ether, So it is a balance of trying to not annoy people. For me, that's what I don't like, annoying people.
It's just to go on a tangent. Speaking of Fred Armisen, did Screeching Weasel play with Trenchmouth back in the day?
I don't know. I don't think so. We might have booked them, but I don't think I ever played with Trenchmouth. No. And he's friends with a guy I just interviewed, John Ross Bowie, who I was almost even more interested in. Pretty well-known actor, but he was in a band called Egghead. Out of New York. So he was part of that New York pop punk scene. But he's friends with Fred. And that's how I got Fred.
Got it.
But Fred knew my stuff, so I was really happy about that.
Come on, you're Jughead.
Yeah.
The Gyros, mine is cigarette-free.
Yeah, mine too.
And it's pretty delicious.
Yeah, I would say I'm surprised the all the vegetables on it seem very fresh. I think they've changed since they're reopening.
It is royally delicious.
Yeah. It's also early in the day, so.
But this is also like great hangover food.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised they're not open late night anymore, because that's what I would imagine they got most of their business from people after they've been drinking and dancing and stuff.
And to be clear, I ordered us the 6-inch Gyros. There's a larger size than what we got, and this seems like a dense amount of food.
A lot of the reviews said it is one of the largest Gyros they've gotten.
So I keep thinking that podcasting in general still isn't at what they call the tipping point. I mean, it's certainly familiar. Podcasting is everywhere. Lots of people are throwing their hat in the ring. I still don't think we're at that like peak moment for podcasting. Do you think we've already crested, or do you think it's still coming?
No, I think, as we talked about briefly in the Gyro shop, it's just when it starts getting the notice by big corporations and stuff like that is when it starts tipping, and then that's happened. We've gone past the point where everybody's doing it now. They're not doing it well, but we are at that point. We are at that point where it's going to be. I don't know what's going to happen. Either it's going to mutate into something slightly different, or it's going to be more established. But I'm not sure. I'm worried about it, actually.
Well, I definitely see parallels between music, the music industry, and podcasting. I mean, now there's a clear delineation between what we'll call major label podcasts and independent podcasts.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, corporations are everyone wants to have a branded podcast, some kind of audio expression of what they are.
Yeah.
And then there are guys like you.
Yeah, and like I said, there's even networks of people. Like I think Will Ferrell is part of a network of, they host a bunch of different podcasts, which I tried at first to be part of one of those, and I was like, I don't even know if it's worth it. I'll just build my own audience. not worry about it.
Podcasting isn't a team sport, at least not at this point.
Yeah.
So being part of a team just feels weird.
Yeah.
When you're doing it in your basement.
Yes, I'm a collaborative person, so the interviews become very collaborative to me. But the running the business part of it is really nice to not have to. I schedule when I want, and if someone can't do it, that's fine. I'll reschedule my life around it. It's harder to reschedule a whole team of people.
Right.
So it's really easy for me to grab someone at the last moment. If they need to do it tomorrow.
You mentioned how, the long-form podcast or long-form conversations, and that's what people enjoy hearing you do. How much preparation goes into what you do? Because I find this varies wildly from host to host.
Well, this has changed, too. I mean, I actually basically have, under my category of Jughead's Basement, I have 3 subcategories. And the most common one now is lo-fi interviews with hi-fi guests, which is the easiest one to do. It's just one-on-one interviews. But I usually study for at least 3 days straight about the person.
For real?
Yeah.
That's an intense amount of work.
Yeah. And then I let it, like I tell them in the podcast, I put the notes all over around me, and then I just trust my mediator instincts and just barely ever look at them. At one point, near the end of the podcast, it's probably the only thing I ever edit out is I'll go and look at all the notes and then make sure I hit the points I wanted to. But I make an effort not to even look at them the whole time. It's more like subconscious for me.
Well, I find, yes, when you put down notes, when you gather your thoughts together, the mere act of writing it out makes it easy to just talk about those things without referring to notes.
Yeah, I've always been that way. Like Ben Weasel is obsessive about lists and note taking. He actually keeps his like in the kitchen, in the living room, like they're everywhere. Me, I write it up and then I lose it or throw it away. It's for me. It's just a mental reminder.
You mentioned Ben.
Yeah.
That was a very friendly reference to Ben Weasel. Are you on speaking terms?
No, we had the experience that happens to a lot of bands. Sadly, I just talked to Victor from Violent Femmes about this too, about how he loves the idea of being in the rooms with the other 2 guys, but business and everything has gotten in the way to make it impossible. And that's we kind of related on that. Almost had some tears together because I love Ben like a brother, but we just don't get along at all, like not even a little bit.
And you mentioned Dan Vapid,
Yeah.
who's been a guest, who I find delightful.
Cool.
Obviously,
Yeah,
you still
Dan's
get along
great.
with him.
Yeah, we get along. We have a side project called the Mopes, which we do occasionally. He loves the show, so I have him on a lot. And we've always been. We had a darker period when he rejoined Weasel when me and Ben split up. I thought the band should have just stopped, and we didn't talk for like a year. But then I called and apologized for being angry at him, so we made up.
And I'm sure you were enraged. I mean, you were there at the beginning of Screeching Weasel, and
Yeah. Ben had gone off and done a solo project, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's fine, that's great. Just if in our agreement that we made is that if you ever reform the band, I have first refusal. So, and he didn't do that. So, so I was a little pissed at all the people that rejoined the band. But like I said, I worked it out with everybody but him. So,
I'm a fan of Vapid's. I think that last album he did, not what people might have expected from him, but it's really good.
Vapid is I hope someday he gets recognized as one of, not even in just punk, but in music, one of the best pop writers out there.
So good.
And singers.
Are you going to the Methadones?
No. I don't go to shows much anymore, and now my girlfriend's in from Japan, and we're trying to get back to Japan, so I'm playing it even more careful.
Totally
So
get it.
I don't go out, yeah.
Totally get it. And, bands have like 4 opening acts these days. I mean, who wants that?
Yeah. No, I don't do it. I did the Mitochondriac show with Vapid, so I just saw him a little while ago.
All right. Now, I may have spoken too soon, Jughead.
Yeah. Did you eat the whole thing? What?
Almost, but wait.
Oh.
This could be one of mine. I'm a hairy guy, but there is a hair in my food.
Oh, boy.
It could be one of mine. I'm not sure. It looks attached to the onion.
Attached to the onion? That is kind of like your beard here, like half
It
gray
is.
and half...
Well, my beard hair is not that long, though.
No?
Jughead. I'm not...
Well, I would be careful, people.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the fries. This may be... Again,
See?
could be mine. Hairy guy.
Yeah.
But...
I'm going to, since I'm going to save this and ask my Nanako if she wants gyro that might have a bit of hair in it.
It's better than a cigarette. I mean, there's protein in hair.
When you said you were going to be here, I was like, oh, all right, yep. But
well, I try to make it convenient. Whenever I do on-site stuff, I try to make it convenient for whoever I'm.
Yeah. I haven't been here since the reopening, so I was excited to get here. But it's classic for that, known for that, like that. I'm surprised that guy isn't behind the counter. I didn't know if he was the owner, but he's been there for 25 years behind the counter till like 3 a.m. with a cigarette in his mouth.
So going back to Screeching Weasel, mid 1980s.
Yeah.
What do you remember from those early days of the band? Like, what was it like in the punk scene? Because it was very different from what it is now. It probably looked and felt very different.
Yeah. I often talk about the moment where it must have been like 94 or 95 where it went from like kids being teenagers and 20-year-olds working full-time jobs to then make enough money to drive their Malibu across the country, and all these shows they book themselves. Then all of a sudden I start seeing these younger kids, like in high school kids, with parents in like newly bought vans and trucks and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And that was honestly where it felt like it had changed, where it didn't feel like people were expecting things, whereas when we started, we didn't expect anything. It was hardcore was all the rage, and we were doing this poppy music, so that we didn't have any chances in our minds to make it. We were just doing what we love doing. And then I started seeing all these people that you could tell had that little bit of we're going to make it in their heads. And I can't say that's bad, but I didn't like it.
Well, and there was, I remember that period. There was that very clear divide of the people who had commercial ambitions and the people who resented them for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the term sellout, you don't hear it that much anymore because it seems like everyone's sold out. But back in the 90s, that was a dividing line.
Yeah, and I've always been skeptical of that thing because I know I take a lot of things into the personal. And having known Green Day and not really being a fan of their music, but being a fan of them, I kind of understood their progress and what they did. And when they were starting to be called sellouts, I'm like, well, if you're doing these small venues, you're booking yourself, and more people being turned away than let in, and you have no other mechanism to do anything about that, you kind of have to make choices if you're going to grow your band. So I was a little bit more skeptical of calling people that, because to me it was more about, are you personally doing something musically you don't want to do or wouldn't be doing if you weren't being paid for it? That's what to me is like a sellout. Like,
right. Are you compromising your?
Are you compromising?
Yeah.
If someone changes their style, that to me isn't selling out. That's you don't know. You don't know their brain. You don't know if they just went, hey, I want to try this, or do they go, oh, this is really popular and this is what my label wants me to do. I'm going to do this now. See, if you don't know that, you don't know. But people took it to meaning jumping to a major label, and I understand that. We were never interested in that because we thought we'd lose more power than we were willing to lose.
Again, the podcast is Jughead's Basement. Going back to Screeching Weasel, I think it's easy for a lot of interviewers, myself included, to talk about the acrimony between you and Ben Weasel. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the good. Like, when you look back on those days, you guys in a van doing what you did, what stands out as like a great memory? What made it fun for you?
It felt like we were with brothers, and Ben and I used to always talk about, even in school, being like the underdogs. Like, we didn't want to be the people that stuck out and were popular. We wanted to be the underdogs, and there were so many times when I would look at him and see that. Like, we did I don't know, we were in Maine or somewhere, one of those famous clubs where the guy owns a shotgun and keeps behind the bar. It was one of those places. It was either St. Louis or Maine or somewhere. I don't remember where. But like 3 people showed up. And I remember looking at him and going, well, let's just put on an amazing show. And it was one of the best shows we've ever done. And I think that was that feeling of being the underdog. Like, well, next time we come, it's going to be an audience. And for Weasel, it did work that way. Like, it really did build an audience with that sort of power of us saying to ourselves, we're the underdogs.
And isn't that what you did that night? Isn't that strong advice for any artist or musician. The 3 people who see you may have friends who they'll bring the next time. Like
exactly.
you have to win everyone over, and sometimes it's 3 people at a time. Sometimes it's a full room.
That is true. I think that's the way to do it with integrity. I think creativity is a wily beast, and you all of a sudden could be an asshole. Can I say that? you can be an asshole, and then all of a sudden you're signed. So it isn't the golden way to be famous, but it is the golden way to have integrity. I think is to stick out, enjoy those shows, enjoy those fans, get to know them, and then they'll bring people next time. You know.
When I had Vapid in the car, I suggested that My Brain Hurts might have been a high watermark for the band. I don't know that he agreed with me. What do you think?
I go, I don't like doing those top 10 things, but every once in a while I'll go through my head, and they change a little bit. I would say it's the most consistent record. I think it's the one that I could listen to from beginning to end the easiest. Ben will say Anthem, because he became a better writer. He believes during that time period. It has Every Night, which I think is one of the best songs we ever wrote. And then sometimes I think it's Boogada, because that shows the excitement of creating a new style. You can tell that record goes from hardcore to pop punk that, and that record has become the staple record that kids in high school buy.
And if there was a moment in Screeching Weasel history when it seemed like things might start leaning towards the next level of commercial success, I mean, Bark Like a Dog was the moment where we all kind of thought it might happen.
Yeah, we had the Cool Kids, which was on Q101. But we weren't built that way. And I mean, a big part of it is Ben, is anxiety and unwillingness to do things that a band needs to do to make that happen, like touring, consistently. So I had feelings it wasn't going to happen, but that record had the intention of such a thing. Yes, I mean, it's hard to believe that we were like a low seller on Fat Records, but we were one of the most popular bands, but yet it didn't show in numbers. So I don't understand that. Really.
Back in the late '90s, we started to become aware of emo. We collectively, as a culture, the word had existed for a while. I don't think it was ever as front and center at that point until you guys put out the album.
Emo?
Yeah.
Well, the word emo was around,
for sure. Sunny Day Real Estate.
Yeah. This was Ben's antagonistic response to an emo movement that was forming, which is kind of always his Material Issue, What's a Material Issue, whatever band. A lot of his driving force is antagonism towards something that's emerging into the mainstream, and that was saying that we have always been doing emotional music. That it's nothing new. That's kind of what that record was about, and we did it in the most raw, emotional way you could do it. We had no rehearsals, first takes in the studio only. So it was done to the extreme of what emo would be. So,
was the Riverdales not for you?
I've still never to this day purposely listened to the Riverdales. Not once. I've been in a room where that's not true, because I actually used one song for when I was reading Weasels in a Box. I did a song that Vapid wrote, but then Ben had it removed from my webpage. But it was hard for me, because I was the only one who wanted to continue the band, and it broke up over Vapid and Ben not getting along. And then before my eyes, all of a sudden they were all in a band together. It was very disappointing, very sad. I was very sad for a long time then.
You are a multi-platform creator. You mentioned indirectly your neo-futurist work, and you just mentioned the book, Weasels in a Box, a not-so-musical journey through partially truthful situations with 80% fictitious dialogue.
Yeah, that's a guesstimation.
Just plausibly fiction. Plausible enough to be fiction.
Plausible enough to be fiction. But I've been told by people like Jim Testa, who is the Jersey Beat, longtime scenester, that it's probably one of the most realistic pop punk experience books he's ever read, which was nice to hear.
And that was probably, to some extent, a catharsis for you, being able to get that stuff on the page.
Yeah, it was. I was writing an article about the Lillingtons, who I had on a label then, and my girlfriend at the time read it and said, "This isn't an article about the Lillingtons. This is a book. And it ended up being, about my relationship mostly about my relationship with Ben, and also my nonlinear way of thinking, coming up against his black and white sort of views of life.
And nonlinear thinking is probably the best way to write a book. Like, as far as the construction of a book. Like, as ideas hit, you put them down, and then you kind of put them all in place.
Yeah, this one is nonlinear to the hilt. It took 7 years to write, and I love it. I love it. I'm reading it right now because my publisher's putting it out as an audiobook, so I've been reading it.
Are you voicing it?
Yes, I'm voicing it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm 2/3 of the way through. I didn't realize I had like over 46 voices in that book, so as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, that's another voice I have to come up with.
I did an oral history of the radio station Q101, and someone said, will you ever do an audiobook of that? Nope. For that reason. It's an oral history with like 85 different people. I'm not a voice actor. It's not gonna happen.
Since I am an actor, I'm really enjoying it, but it's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would. So, but
that's exciting. So it's a totally different way of speaking too, like doing that narration.
Yeah, it is. Well, mine is it's interesting because it's first and second person, so a lot of it is actually talking to the reader, which makes it a little easier in my mind. But like I said, it's complicated.
It's
because
a challenging way to write.
Well, I would never do it again. I don't recommend doing it. It is so hard to do a sentence without having you in it every time, and it's really difficult. Yeah, what do you call it? Manually or actually technically, it's a very difficult format to write in.
So Jughead's Basement, 10 years running.
Yes.
What do you? How far ahead do you book for this? Or is it kind of seat of your pants?
It's pretty seat of the pants. I try to, now that I'm doing the straight-on interviews, I try to do one a week. And sometimes I'll take a month off, so then I'll store some for the... But I usually tell the guests, because it changes what I'm asking and what we're doing if they think it's coming out this week or coming out in a month. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can listen on all the platforms, obviously. And this is a side hustle that we really want to see become a front hustle?
I would love it to be a front hustle. I'm a hustler, I love the dance, so bring on the nightlight.
I've said it before, Jughead, the more people who do good stuff in this space, I think the better we'll all be. I think the better for the medium, the better for the way people perceive what we do.
I agree. And we didn't really get into it a lot, but I even started reading interview books. Once again, I like to discover things intuitively, and then I'll go back and see what I didn't learn. I did the guitar, I learned myself, and then I went and looked at books. And interviewing is really important, and it is an art. It is an art, and it's not for everybody, but everyone should have the chance to try.
It's not for everybody.
Exactly.
And everyone does it, that podcast, because it's a lot easier than doing a solo show. Yeah. But I've learned there are things that other people do that are kind of cringy with podcasts.
And also it's like, I learned from years and years of watching Ben being interviewed, of watching bad interviewers, of asking the questions, the surface questions, I just call them, and they don't know how to go off that, and I just call it active listening. It's really just a lot of active listening.
No, I'm self-conscious. Did I do okay?
You did do good, yeah. You were going by list, but you were able to veer from that.
There were things I wanted to hit, and when it came to the subtitle of your book, I knew I couldn't commit that to memory, so I had to refer to that.
Yeah, and I actually couldn't help but glance casually. So sometimes when I was finishing a sentence, I actually referenced the thing that was coming up.
Oh, well played. Well played. Hey, I feel like we need to keep talking because it's raining. I don't want you to ride home.
It's not, whatever.
You're on a bicycle. I don't want you to...
I'm not in a hurry, but you don't need to stay for me. It's not bad outside.
It comes and goes. This is very...
I'm 2 minutes away, so it's...
Okay, that makes me feel good. All right, Jughead's Basement is the podcast. A rich musical history awaits you as you listen to those Screeching Weasel albums. Boogada, boogada, boogada. Fantastic. As mentioned, my brain hurts, all that stuff. Bark like a dog. Oh, my God. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for sharing a hairy Gyros with me.
I'm sorry for that. My neighborhood did not come through for you, and I apologize.
But it did.
But you did.
It's
choose
a story.
the place.
It's memorable.
It is. Yes.
I wouldn't have remembered if it was a standard Gyros, but with the hair in it.
Now you can say, "Well, I didn't get a cigarette, but I got a hair."
It's kind of like the claw game. Sometimes you get the ball, sometimes you get the stuffed animal. You just never know. All right, thank you, Jughead.
All right, thank you, James.